All right, welcome. Hi, thanks. I'll give everybody a second to get settled. Thanks for coming tonight to our town hall. This is the first town hall I've been a part of in the city of Estacada. I want to say the mayor is not here tonight. He's feeling under the weather, so just keep him in your thoughts. Hope that he feels better soon. But we've got our council, the rest of our council here. I'm Charity Hughes, council president, and a couple housekeeping rules or housekeeping things. Restrooms, you're gonna go out the exit doors and then to the left, or if you're facing me, I guess that would be your right, and then up the stairs for men's, and then women's is just down on the ground level. You all came in and saw papers. There's just a couple of housekeeping rules. Just remember to keep it at one question, and then we'll try and answer as succinctly as possible. Just to keep this moving, we want to be respectful of the school's time. We'll try and wrap up around 8 o'clock, and but if things go a little over, that's fine too. I also want to thank the school district and the techs back there tonight. Appreciate you guys spending the extra hours to come out and do this for us. We really, really appreciate it. So with that said, I'm going to go over a couple of things about the city council and just some basics, right? Kind of city council government 101. So we have the city council. The form of government that we have is Estacada operates under the council manager form of government. And so basically the council manager form is a system of local government that combines the strong political leadership of elected officials in the form of a council or other governing body, with a strong managerial experience of an appointed local government manager. The form establishes a representative system where all power is concentrated in the elected council and where the council hires a professionally trained manager to oversee the delivery of public services. The mayor and council is the legislative body. Its members are the community's decision makers. Power is centralized in the elected mayor and council, which approves the budget, for example. The mayor and council also focus on the community's goals, major projects, and such long-term considerations as community growth, land use development, capital improvement plans, capital financing, and strategic planning. The mayor and city council hire a professional manager to carry out administrative responsibilities and supervise the manager's performance. All right. Okay, and I'm reading through these because I know some people online may not be watching and reading, so then they can just, or they're driving, can just hear and listen. So the city manager's role, since the city council works in tandem with city manager is hired to serve the mayor and the council and the community and to bring the local government the benefits of training experience in administering local government projects and programs on behalf of the governing body. The manager prepares a budget for the mayor and council's consideration, recruits, hires, and supervises the government staff, and carries out the mayor and council's policies. The city manager makes policy recommendations to the mayor and the council, but the mayor and council may or may not adopt them and may modify the recommendations. The city manager is bound to whatever action the mayor and council takes. All right, so what are the roles of the city council in Estacada? And this is according to our charter. The city council is a legislative body responsible for governing the city. The council consists of the mayor and 6 councilors who are elected by the residents of Estacada. The primary role of the city council is to adopt policies and ordinances that govern the city. They have the authority to establish ordinances, regulations, and codes for the community. The council also has the power to establish budgets and allocate resources for various city services and programs. Additionally, the City Council is responsible for appointing and overseeing the city manager, who is responsible for the day-to-day administration of city operations. The council sets goals and priorities for the city manager and evaluates their performance. The council holds regular meetings where they discuss and make decisions on matters concerning the city. For us, this is the second and fourth Monday of the month. These meetings are open to the public, allowing residents to voice their concerns, provide feedback, and participate in decision-making process. The council also holds public hearings on specific issues or projects to gather input from the community. All right. Continuing on, furthermore, the City Council represents the interests of the residents and acts as a liaison between the community and the city government. This is why we appreciate your emails and you showing up tonight. They advocate for the needs and the concerns of the residents, address questions and complaints, and collaborate with other local, regional, and state entities to promote the city's interests. Overall, the City Council plays a crucial role in shaping the policies, direction, and development of Estacada. They are responsible for making decisions that affect the well-being and quality of life of the community and ensuring effective and efficient functioning of the city government. All right, the mayor and council and city staff. So how do we all work together? City Council sets the policies and goals for the city and the city staff, which includes administration, public works, planning, library, and finance, who are responsible for implementing and carrying out those policies. City staff provides the council with information, analyses, and recommendations to assist them in making informed decisions. Regular communication and interaction between the City Council and city staff occur through council meetings, work sessions, and emails. City staff presents reports, updates, and proposals to the council. Council then provides feedback, asks questions, and give direction. The relationship between the City Council and city staff should reflect mutual respect, professionalism, and a shared commitment to serving the community. Differences of opinion can arise, and they do. However, the council and staff do work together in how to best address the needs and concerns of the Estacada community. So, what are our legal parameters as a city council? So, I have a list up here of 6. Number 1, city councilors must adhere to the laws and regulations outlined in the ORS, which cover various aspects of local government operations, including public meetings, ethics, public records, land use, and more. Estacada City Charter serves as a governing document, etc. We went over that. There's a code of ethics. City councilors are expected to follow a code of ethics that promotes integrity, transparency, accountability in their actions as public officials. This code may include provisions regarding conflicts of interest, gifts, financial disclosures, and other ethical considerations. Open meeting law. Councilors must comply with Oregon Public Meeting Law, which mandates that official meetings of the City Council be open to the public with certain exceptions. The law specifies requirements for public notice, meeting agendas, and public participation. Public records law. Councilors must comply with Oregon Public Records Law, which grants public access to government records and established procedure for responding to record requests. And finally, local policies and procedures. The City of Estacada may have additional policies and procedures that councilors must follow, such as rules for conducting meetings, which we have, guidelines for use of city resources, and requirements for reporting and disclosure. So that was a little bit dry, but hopefully you get some understanding as to what we do as a city council, what we can and cannot do. There are some things that I myself had to learn coming on to city council, not knowing that I couldn't do it. I'm like, oh, well, we can't just shut down developments? What do you mean? No, you can't. So, yeah, it's been an eye-opening experience. This is my 4th year on council, and I feel like I learned something at every meeting. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything. So it's a learning process for all of us up here as we go. So we've got a couple of questions this evening. I think we'll start with the online questions first, and I believe Elaine is going to read those. And us as counselors will address them as best we can. We do have city staff here that can, if we get into the nuance, a little bit of the nitty-gritty of some of the questions, we might defer to them to answer those for us. So, okay.
Okay. So the first question that came in online is, when is the city going to address speeding of cars in residential areas?
Councilor Metcalf, Jonathan Metcalf. You can just call me Jonathan. I don't need no special title. I am the liaison for the traffic and public safety now as of 2024, and I can assure you that this is brought up every meeting, okay? I hear about this 24/7. It is important to us. It is important to the council. It was actually discussed at our goals thing as well. The answer is this. The deputies know about it. Okay, Chief Mendoza, he's aware of it. They're doing traffic studies and different things like that. To take note, we're looking at speed bumps and addressing things to help slow it down, but really it's gonna come down to, it just takes time, which is what nobody wants to hear, I understand that, but things take time. I know that we just had speed bumps and things like that presented to us to turn in for budget purposes, to dawn in them, to take a look at, so that we can look at trying to implement these things in the near future. And I know that the cops are positioning themselves, that the sheriff's office, is positioning themselves in different places to bring awareness. So this is just something that's continually going to be monitored. I can't say for sure that there will be a speed change or anything like that, but don't drive any faster than you're comfortable with, please. Don't worry about if people are honking at you or flipping you off. Let them be disrespectful or discourteous or whatever they want to do. Just do what you know is right and what you're comfortable with, and just know that this is something we are working on.
All right, next question.
Introduce yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll hand the mic to each one of them.
I'm Michael McElroy. I live in the city of Estacada, is required to be on the council. I work here in the community down in the industrial park for locked buildings. I've got 2 younger children that are still in school and attend the middle school here. And yeah, that's me.
I'm Jonathan. I live in Campanella. I'm a construction worker. I work out of town, unfortunately, for now. But yeah, I have 4 kids in the school system.
And I'm Charity Hughes. Again, I live in the city of Estacada, just up 4th. I have 2 kids that are in the school district. They are both actually in high school this year. I can't believe it. So, yeah, we've lived here since 2016, and we love it.
I'm Jerry Tenbush. I've got 2 graduates from Estacada High School that have lived here and nowhere else their entire lives. I'm a almost 30-year resident of Estacada. My family's been in the city of Estacada for generations, and I'm a longtime volunteer, and now I'm on city council.
And I'm Paul Strobel. I have lived here since 2011, live here and work here. 3 kids have gone through the school system here as well, too, and are off doing their own thing right now.
And then staff, do you want to?
Okay. I am Elena. I am the assistant city manager, and I think we'll just pass this along since it's kind of hard for us to all get out of our seats.
I'm Sadie Main. I'm the city recorder and finance director.
I feel like I should stand up. Sorry. I'm Melanie Wagner. I'm the city manager. And thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. And I'm sorry to the folks on the online who can't see us. But, yeah, thanks for being here.
Donald DeRoja, Public Works Director.
I am Kurt McLeod, the city engineer with Corinne McLeod Engineers.
Sean Spargo, I'm a wastewater project engineer with Kennedy Jenks Consultants.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And then I have our next question. that was submitted prior to the event is, why did City Council adopt new zoning laws that reduce requirements to build housing, which would accelerate growth in Estacada?
We adopted new zoning laws because we had to. They're Oregon laws, and we have to follow the Oregon laws for zoning. That's not one we can just say no to. But yeah, all of the zoning changes and zoning laws were all out of necessity to stay in compliance.
Yeah, the only changes that I'm aware, I read that email as well. I didn't ask about a specific meeting, so the only thing I'm assuming is when the housing needs analysis came out and we made the adjustment allowing for a single ADU in some of the properties. And then there was also in the R2 zone, there were some changes to allow duplexes and triplexes in those zones, and we backed away from allowing those in the other zones. That was going to be triggered at the state level once the population increased by another, I think, 30% or 40%. So the duplex thing was the only thing that added to that. I'm not sure if that person's here tonight. I'd love to. Yeah, can we hear from that gentleman?
Please come up here and you can. Yeah.
My name is Mike Ennis. I live at 34160 Southeast Deuce Road in Estacada. And I was a planning commissioner, and I was a planning commissioner when the, let's see, it was Chapter 8, Title 16 that changed all the zoning laws and loosened everything up. Everything went denser, and City Council on October 24th, 2022, there was a motion that came on for that to reduce the allowed ADUs to one lot and remove triplexes, quadruplexes, cottage clusters, and common well dwellings in the R1 and R2 zones. And it was Litke seconded the motion, and it failed. And I think most of the people up there voted to fail that change. And then Commissioner Dunsmuir.
I apologize. You said to allow in the R1 zone, allow duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes?
No, to reduce the allowed ADU. I have the meeting minutes here.
Yeah.
Right here.
No, yeah, I was just trying to understand. I
Sure.
apologize.
And then Dunsmuir moved to adopt the ordinance and presented, Tenbush seconded the motion, and the motion passed 4-0 to adopt it as presented. And it wasn't just these things here. There were all kinds of things that were reduced, you know, like lot sizes on some of the R1, R2s, those, I mean, they're parking spaces, there's all kinds of stuff that was adopted that wasn't even part of these meeting minutes. But the fact is that our city council allowed and accepted all these changes as written when they had a chance to slow that down. So it's the thing that I don't understand why, if we have an issue with our growth here in Estacada, that our city council doesn't do more to try and slow that down.
In what way? What would that look like for a property that's been annexed into the city? That's allowed, can I just finish my question, Mr. Ennis, real quick? If a property's been annexed into the city and the city engineer has said that there's capacity to allow it to be annexed into the city, and it's for instance, in an R2 zone, and someone wants to build something in an R2 zone that's allowed in an R2 zone, what would the city council do to prevent that?
Well, that's just the thing. All the planning laws opened up to allow more dents in each zone. And I don't think that was the best thing for our city. And, you know, if we want to become a Portland, well, let's just do it. And you have begun that process by changing and laxing all of the zoning laws in each district.
Because of the density, is that what you're referring to, Mr.? The higher density
Yes.
in some of the
Well,
smaller lot
that's
sizes?
part of it, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to be clear, what you would like to see happen is that larger lot sizes?
Well, they were larger lot sizes, now they're not.
Understood, but that's the solution that you would like to see, is the lot sizes going to a bigger, from maybe a 7,500 square foot lot to a 10,000 square foot lot?
No. There were all kinds of changes that were adopted in this.
Yes, sir.
And those changes changed everything on all the zones and makes it easier for builders to build, because they, all of a sudden, they can build more on the previous zones. And now they're allowed to build more dense in the adopted changes.
Understood. I'd be happy to look at any of the specific things in that code that you have a problem with, and look and see if there's something we could do to change it for you.
It's like 600 pages,
Understood.
so.
Yeah, that's why with a broad brush, it'd be really hard to address all your concerns. But if there's something specific, when those came up, I'm not for higher density. I was for backing away from a lot of those things that was going to allow the higher density in R1 zones.
But it
And
happened. It was adopted as written. And
I'll have to go back and look at that.
Once it's adopted, a builder, if it's written in there, there's no way to stop anything, because it's already written, and as long as they follow the current zoning laws, which were changed, they can do whatever they want.
Understood. Thank you. Appreciate that question.
Are there any more questions from online?
There were no more pre-submitted questions. Are there any online questions? No. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to ask a question?
Come on up. Don't be shy. Come on up.
Come on up.
I'd like to know who specifically set up the rules for the meeting tonight, and when did council meet to create the rules?
Well, we didn't really, we just kind of went over just a basic rough draft as to what we were going to do for tonight. So it was just going to be open up. I put together the presentation of what, the roles of council, and then I just had a couple of emails with city staff between council and us over what would happen tonight. One, question from the audience, and then we would respond. So, okay. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in. This is our first one as well, too. So we were looking at this as a kickoff, and we're excited to have more of these as well, too. And whatever we glean from this, we look forward to taking forward, and then also improving upon for future town hall meetings as well, too.
Okay, on the rules of the meeting tonight, technically it's the Roberts Rule of Order is technically what this is following, because the last meeting that we had at the City Hall was completely out of hand. So Roberts Rule of Order should always be followed, and people have questions about it, read about it. Go read it.
Okay. I'm sorry, what meeting were you talking?
when was it?
Or was it the Parks and
The
Rec
Parks
meeting?
and Rec meeting,
Oh,
which the Parks
okay.
and Rec meeting, I'm ashamed of the way that people treated that Park and Rec board.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
This is an excellent opportunity. One of the things that I can tell you that all of the council agreed on in email and in person, that those of us that have talked on the phone, is that this is an opportunity to hear from you. We didn't want to come here with some sort of an agenda on what we want to tell you or what our opinion is on what's going on in town. We simply wanted to present ourselves, open up, introduce ourselves, and hear from you. So I would invite you, if that's you in the audience, if you have any questions, if you want to know anything like that, this is your chance. We want to listen. This is us extending ourselves to do that. So please come forward.
All right, next question.
Howdy guys, Tim from Lakeshore. Hey,
Hey.
my question is basically this. I've seen you guys we kind of tend to bend when we have new developments going in. We have a whole set of rules, and if we have developers come in here and we bend the rules every time, then I'm not sure why we have the rules. So can we kind of like firm up on what the rules are going to be and kind of stick to those? I know that the apartments down at Lakeshore, we just changed the rules, and now they're not going to use the rule we changed, so now that's going to affect our downtown, even though what they're dealing with is across the river or across the highway, and we're not trying to count that as downtown. Just kind of want to see it firmed up. What do you guys think about that?
That is good. Unfortunately, in this case, the application was submitted before the ordinance took place. So, you know, like I said, the application came in before the ordinance came into effect. And as far as I remember, the last time there was any kind of rule bending, those of us that were on council really regret the small lot sizes on the Faraday Hills project. We all regret the fact that we agreed to smaller lot sizes, and that's the last one that I can remember where there was any kind of, you know, change.
Quote unquote bend of the rules.
Yeah, quote unquote bend of the rules. It was all within the rules, all within the laws.
Well, the truth is on the apartments down there that they're putting in, the rules say that that's supposed to be ground floor residential. That's the way the rules read now. Well, till we changed them to half, that's the way they read, and they didn't do either one, so just saying.
Clarify on that just real quick. It was required to have ground floor
Yes, sir.
residential?
The whole downtown D zone is required.
You mean commercial or residential?
Commercial is downtown, the downtown zone is all commercial downtown. For the ground floor, you can have residential above it. They have neither there.
It's actually, and I was the person that was really, I wanted to see the code change in the downtown zone because I didn't think that large apartment complexes were the vision for the downtown zone. And the language I read that kind of frustrated me with it was that it was specific streets. So if it faced Broadway Street, Main Street, there was a couple on the Lakeshore side street. I don't remember the exact name of the streets, but if they were not on those streets facing that, then there wasn't that requirement. There's a transparency requirement, but not the ground floor commercial requirement.
The transparency requirement is on those two streets. The downstairs is the whole downtown section, for sure. Been through the code a lot.
All right. Is anyone familiar with that code section or have that open? Is that correct? Am I mistaken?
You're correct, yeah. But prior to the code change, it read Broadway, facing Broadway and facing Main Street had to have.
And the highway, right?
And the highway had to have ground floor commercial. And this application came in prior to the code change. Now, the code change expanded that, but it's not the entire downtown.
Understood. Yeah, and just, it's the long-term vision of any other applications come in is what we're trying to address with that. And I'd be happy to go over the code with you and sell what I read. We're on the same page with the vision for the downtown zone. We're not on different sides of that, but the application came in. It wasn't that anything's changing. My understanding is that they met all the criteria for the code that was in place when the application happened. And I'd love to see the items that didn't check that box. I'd be happy to look into it with you.
Good evening.
Hi.
I have a couple of things, but I'll just stick with one first. I do know that when these developments come in, and if they meet the requirements by the law, that you cannot tell them no. Correct? Okay.
That is correct.
I'm on the same page there. But I do have a concern about when these developers come in and the Planning Commission reviews it and comes back with recommendations that's going to cost developers money, they come back and you negotiate with them and give them a break, basically. I'd like to see more. If the Planning Commission says this is the way it is, that you stick with that rather than giving them these big breaks that they want. They don't live here. They don't have really encouragement to do what's best for the city. And that's where that's where you guys need to step in. So I just like to see that going on forward. Yes.
I'm sorry. It seemed like you had something in mind. I'm just curious if one of those situations happened.
I live right next to the Wade Creek Commons. Okay. That was originally placed in that there would be 2 parking spots for every apartment. And then the council came back and gave them just 1 parking spot per apartment, or 1.5. It was some difference there. So, and I'm concerned because I live next door. People are going to be parking out on the road, going to be blocking my driveway. There's no real visitor spots over there. So that's my real concern. But I just, again, that's one example that I personally know about. But of course, rumors have it of other examples. And I just want us to be more consistent with what the Planning Commission has done. They've done their due diligence. They've done all the research. Then, unless there's some really, really compelling reason to go against it, if it's just because the builder wants more money, I don't think that's a good reason.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else? Oh, Jim.
You could have sat closer, Jim.
Good evening. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Other than your second and fourth Mondays, I just want to know if we were on schedule for the Main Street, how that's going. I spoke to a couple of the businesses, and they said that there's been some accidents recently, so I'm concerned about that in regards to safety. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I think for that question, I'm going to turn it over to city staff since they have the most up-to-date information on that.
The Main Street project is moving along smoothly on track. This week they're working on water mains. That's what you're seeing in front of Yo Treats. They're round in the corner with the new water main, and then they're going to bacterial test it, flush it, and pressure test it, and then that'll go active within the next couple weeks, and then they're going to keep on moving from block to block. And so as of right now, it's moving along. We haven't heard of any wrecks that nothing's come up to us. And if it does, you should contact City Hall and let us know, and we can address it then.
Are you referring to that wreck that was on that, right, kind of by Harvest? Is that what you're talking about, or? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi.
Just want to thank you guys for your service.
Yeah, thanks for your question.
I would like for you to talk to us about infrastructure, specifically seeing some more restaurants. I'm not a beer drinker, so I don't typically go to bars. And I know we have some really cool looking places like that downtown, which I'm sure a lot of people do appreciate. But I would like to see like some restaurants. I'd like to see a larger market, grocery store. a UPS store, maybe a oil change place, you know, like bringing in some more infrastructure. We have all these people now.
Yeah.
So could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. I really appreciate that question. I know that's something that the council talked about during our workshop, and infrastructure has been, especially with all the growth, top priority here in the city of Estacada. I know I personally would love for more jobs to be here in Estacada. I would love for people to be able to live in the city and also work in the city. I know you went to some meetings and you have a little more insight as to what's going on with infrastructure at the state level and kind of how that's, I don't know if you want to speak to that or not.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for that, Tammy. Kind of like Charity said, everybody sitting up here's goal is to bring jobs here. And I want to make something clear when we tell you that we have heard what you said about we do not want Estacada to become Portland. There's not a person up here that doesn't appreciate or value that sentiment. I promise you. I promise you that that is important to us to keep the rural feeling. That being said, it's a tough spot because we need to attract stuff and bring stuff here without sounding the alarms on growth at the same time. So to speak to infrastructure or economic development stuff, it was brought up at the meeting that we would like to really put an emphasis on starting to fill the industrial park and start to attract more local jobs and get people so that our citizens don't have to drive the Carver curb every day and be an hour into town. I know that, like I said, I work construction, I'm a crane operator. I have to drive hour and a half each day out of town and then come back into town and pray to God the rocks didn't slide across the road, right? So, unfortunately, it's not just like we can snap our fingers and make this happen for you. I wish I could wave a wand and jobs were here, but I'll be honest with you. You need to write your senators. Your senators are more worried about, and I'm gonna say this lightly, they're more worried about drugs and mental health and stacking ADUs in Happy Valley and making even smaller densities and taking the power away from even the county, okay? Which is what a lot of your guys' concerns where you're talking about urban growth development and boundaries and different things like that. The state is starting to take powers away from counties and implement stricter rules to put more people here, which is not what we want, right? So we have to get ahead of that. So unfortunately, I would love to tell you all this great news about how our state legislators are making moves to support our infrastructure and our needs. But I could tell you that I had a conversation with our state representative that said we need money and we need time and we need attention for our infrastructure. Specifically, we need a water treatment plant, we need other things like that that's to support the houses that we already have, let alone what the governor is trying to say that we need to have or accommodate in the future. But that's not their priority. They're more worried about talking about Narcan and other junk like that, unfortunately. But that being said, I can promise you that the people up here do care, and that what we are trying to do is develop a committee that will be ahead of that, that's going to attract new businesses, new jobs, new companies, and then try to get around looking at maybe bringing back the identity to the town and things like that. Paul?
And one of the things that you brought up, Tammy, was bringing in different businesses to Estacada too. And one of the things that we've talked about, a goal is to really strengthen that economic development portion of what the city offers. So that's a goal of this council, that's a goal of the city as well too. But one of the things that we can't do is decide what businesses come into Estacada. That's up to the businesses themselves. If I understand that, I don't know what the name of it is officially, but the old Artsmith building has been purchased, it's being renovated again, it's going to be opened up, and that owner wants to know, hey, who should they contact to get the word out on that? And that's the best thing to do, get the word out, let them know that there's space here in Estacada. But if some rubber band store comes in and wants to take up the whole thing, there's nothing the city can do to say, we don't need rubber band stores. We've just got to let the market decide. The business come in, it's either going to thrive or it's going to fail. But the best thing that we can do, in my opinion, to attract great businesses to Estacada is to be visiting and being a part of the businesses that are in town now. If we want great restaurants here, and we've got a restaurant owner that wants to come in and they see that Estacada is thriving, that our restaurants are packed every night, then that's going to bring more restaurants to Estacada. I think it's going to be market-driven from that standpoint. So that's my 2 cents on bringing businesses to Estacada.
Just to add on to what Paul was saying, you know, the reason that people are moving out here is because we made this community great. And when I say we, I mean everybody in the Estacada community. We made it an amazing community. And that's why people want to come live out here. So in order to, you know, attract those businesses, we have to, like what Paul was saying, we have to, you know, make our current local businesses great. That's the only way that people are going to see that, you know, that they can have a successful business in Estacada. So, you know, just like what we did with the community, you know, standing together, coming together strong, and, you know, we made people want to come live here just by what we built. So, you know, we just kind of have to do the same thing with our local businesses.
Does that answer your question a little bit, Tammy? Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think the Economic Development Committee will help with some of that, but some of that's going to be driven by and restricted by traffic, like not having the traffic flow that a lot of the restaurants will require to open up a restaurant. So we'll see a lot more independent restaurants until the population gets larger to be able to support something like a McDonald's, if that's even something somebody wants in town. I know we have to commute to Sandy or Gresham to go get a lot of things that we can't get around here. And some of that will come with time as the population grows, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. In order to have some of those businesses, you have to have a greater population, and no one wants the population to grow. So it's gonna be kind of battling each other as that happens. But I'd like to see, I would definitely like to see another market in town, and not have to drive into Sandy for that. So I agree with you on that.
Also, I'd like to say that we would like to hear from you. We're willing to reach out to people. I know that the mayor talked about, if I remember correctly, about us having conversations with the people that make those decisions at Safeway, for example, and other stores like that, or maybe even trying to attract other companies that are tourist-driven, or have conversations with some of the infrastructure like natural gas and different. I mean, it was brought up, like, to what can we do to bring stuff here to attract bigger and better companies to bring more jobs. So.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Mary Etheridge, and I know some of you guys, so you hear me talk and go back and forth a lot. But really, I feel like I should be addressing the city planner. I don't feel like you guys, anytime I'm going to the planning commission meetings and going to all the city council meetings, and you guys are committees, you know. And so the planner, Taylor, and, you know, we flip-flop many different planners in the days. We have Alan and Brian now, but, you know, those people want to, you know, I just feel like my questions really refer to them, but my question is referring to a neighbor's email to you, Manager Aleda Turpin, and it was dated June 28th, 2023. And that person wrote, "Am I eligible for the hookup from the new water line that was just installed to Southeast Woodland Road, connecting to Lawrence Road and north to Curran Creek Developments," which is happening right up Lawrence Road. I've been complaining about the speed and all the neighbors. The response to that was, "You must first apply for annexation into city limits." And that's where I think a lot of trouble begins, when people annex, and then the next thing they know that they are literally pushed out of their homes. And I know that for a fact. Due to the wastewater capacity, you risk the chance of being denied. So at that point in time, just of June 28th, the wastewater capacity, you risk the chance you might get denied. And then the second question, from the city. I want to request, you have to request an exemption from council for annexation. You would have to show need. In the past, they have allowed this for people whose wells have run dry. And I've seen, you know, things in the paper, information about Moss Hill Road. There was people, they're going up into the city in that area off of Woodland. People didn't have water. They said, well, you're going to have to annex into the city if you know, and they didn't have any water at all. We are nearing capacity, it was written, for water, so this is not a sure thing either. If you choose to go this route, the regular water is billed at twice the rate of residents. If you are not in dire need and can wait, and here's the kicker, a couple of years, the likelihood of approval increases after we've broken ground for the new wastewater plant. So my second part of my question would be, landowners who have not annexed and subdivided can most likely not get approval, you know, i.e. full water until the full water capacity wastewater not up and running properly. But a developer can be approved with that formula that you're talking about, that it's 70%, the turd pond is 70% full. And so I know that formula, I know the DEQ, I know we're getting fined up the yin-yang, I know we're hauling the stuff to another town sometimes to get rid of what we've got going on here. So again, I emphasize the fact that a local can maybe not get approved and go through the jumps, but, you know, Curran Creek Estates, that was 3. Their application went in 10/18 of 23. And, you know, all of that, there's so many precedents that I hear of. Or, well, we did Curran Creek too close to the creek, but we have to do 3 like that, or 6. 6 is coming up. 6 is going to be that close to the creek too because of the precedents. Or, I know I'm rambling, council, but there was a time that I heard that it was going to be 50 acres or 2 acres for the airport, and then it goes to 50 when it comes to council. So that's why this gentleman that wasn't sure about the businesses being on the ground floor and what, there are so many ambiguities that keep happening, and I've, you know, had complained that I'm not hearing everything going on. You know, the paper doesn't help. A lot of us don't get the paper because they don't even talk about Estacada. But I can see now, I do have that website, and I appreciate it, the City of Estacada government. That's kind of helps me to know what's the plans, when it's going to happen. I appreciate the positive things that are written in there. But on the other hand, I think there's some stuff going on that you guys, you know, you're kind of a series of the planners up here, it feels like it, you know, they're making some ideas go on, then quickly it goes to the planning division. They've got, oh, hurry up, you got 120 days, and this last time they denied the applicant, and then it flips on to you guys, where you have to make the decisions. It might be a 600-page document. You know, it might be, and you're a committee, you know. I mean, I appreciate everything you do because it takes so much time. I don't think I can do it. I don't live in the city limits. Anyway, I have a couple more things. I guess I just finish up. I know the answer to this particular thing and the development. I'm worried about the airport. I'm worried about the airport.
Can we answer one question
Okay,
at a time?
yeah.
It would make it easier, and I would like to clarify a process, is that we evaluate the wastewater capacity at annexation. And so these subdivisions, the properties have already been annexed in.
One person, John Reed, but this is just one person that's asking
Yeah.
to move in.
We've had a few people, and that's the same information. It's on the website, is you can either annex if you're within the UGB, or you can request from council, and that's how it's written in the code. You can request from council to get a waiver from not annexing.
When was that code written?
years ago. It's been like that for ages. Yeah, I mean, I have to go back and look, but
And I don't think you necessarily have to subdivide to annex into the city.
No,
You can,
no.
a property owner that wanted to keep their property could annex in without subdividing their property, keep their property just the same as it was. And
For the water, you know, because our water and sewer line are coming up.
what would be the negative about annexing into the city and owning your own property?
Every single person that I've known, like Marilyn Lloyd, and the one, and then the Lehman's next to him, and it's a constant situation there. It dominoes effect. The developer does different things to allow, to get the road. I mean, there's my infamous gate that I continue to talk about, but there was a yellow gate that was off of Lawrence Road that we wouldn't even have to deal with this traffic on Lawrence Road. I fought to keep that closed, only open during a fire thing. You know, we all worry about evacuation. But then the developer bought up 2 homes and put a road around the corner. And in the meantime, they've been sending buses that way. So they, you know, I'm thinking it's Mars that looks down and says, this is what urban growth is going to look like. It's going to go by the airport. It's going to go up Lawrence Road. But nobody's come through and saw that there's water that flows underneath Lawrence Road. So that's why we got the potholes going on over all the time. Can't we change what urban growth is, or vision something else, is probably what I'm asking Taylor Campy. If that, all the places along Deuce by the airport that are going to be later, you know, R1, then would people come, just like all, you know, Portland Airport, you get too many planes. Yeah, we don't have a lot of people flying into the airport, but people must complain about the planes flying low. You're in you know, a place right next to the airport, a whole development that's going to be, and beautiful trees there, by the way, off to the east of Deuce, of Lawrence, and they're going to be a big development.
And I'm not trying to say that someone should annex in this. I was just trying to understand the problem with annexing, but I was a little confused by the math on that too, that so all the properties that are annexed into the city already, whatever the maximum density on those properties with the city zoning, that's the math that's used for the burden on the, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the math that's used for the burden on the water, sewer, storm. And so those are already cooked into the sauce of the math, is my understanding. It's when a new property wants to be annexed in, it's assuming that all those properties that are already annexed that aren't built out yet, all of that, it assumes that all that burden is already on the system when they make a decision about a new property coming in. And I would think that if you're gonna utilize, if you wanted to take advantage of the city services and I owned a property, I don't know what I guess the domino effect is one thing that it would change. If you annex it in, it would allow your neighbor to be able to annex in as well. So that would be the only negative I would see to that. But other than that, if you wanted to annex and keep your property, I would think that you could do that just fine.
We're talking my world now, so I thought infrastructure would be a bigger discussion item tonight. Just a couple of things I've heard thus far. You know, yeah, you can, to get water service, you can annex in, and there would be, with one house, there'd be no criteria that would say there's no capacity at the wastewater or water plant to serve one house. So annexing in, when they turn in a subdivision application, that's when there's a decision as to whether there's capacity to serve them. So I know that on Woodland Road, if people want to get service, I think they're adjacent to the city limits, so they could, I believe, annex in pretty easily. And the process to annex, is it just a city council decision? I don't believe there's a voter annexation, is there? So it's just a council decision. Regarding infrastructure, by the time it gets to me, the city engineer, the planning commission has reviewed applications. It goes to city council for approval, and then it goes to Dawn and I, the public works director, and our office to review the plan. So our work is very cut and dried. We just compare it to the standards and make them do whatever the code requirement is for their development. Regarding capacity, the wastewater plant, up until about 2018, we had a growth rate that averaged about 2.8% per year. And then in 2019, 20, 21, we got hit very hard. One year we had almost 20% growth. So, and those things we really don't have control over. If a piece of property is inside the urban growth boundary and inside the city limits, they can develop. So they can bring an application to the city to build a subdivision. So annexing increases the value of your property because now it's a developable property. So I think once you annex, you're probably the subject of a lot of developers looking to buy your property. Regarding capacity, the wastewater plant, we started the wastewater plant planning about 4 years ago. So, and Sean Spargo is here with Kennedy Jenks. He's doing the design for the plant. So we expect to actually break ground later this year. So we'll be under construction this year for the new plant. So, and our plant is really not, it's not overloaded because of the population connection. So during the summertime, we have a flow of about 350,000 gallons a day, which is only 75% of our capacity. But in the wintertime, we have flows that go to 2 to 2.5 million gallons a day. So our problem is infiltration and inflow. So our problem is the collection system leaks quite a bit. So we're fighting that each year. Dawn and Melanie put budgets together each year to try to correct the pipeline leaks. But when we add new development, that really has a very minor impact. For example, the 1,000 homes that we have currently in the planning stage. So some of them are in construction, some of them are in planning commission, city council process for approval. Those 1,000 new homes that we could see would have an impact of about 180,000 gallons per day. But that still only brings us up to maybe 500,000 gallons a day. When we have problems, and I heard you mention violations from DEQ, we've had maybe 25 violations in the last 3 or 4 years. They're all related to the I&I problems that we have. So unrelated really to domestic loading, it's all related to the collection system deficiencies that we have. So we're working on that. Every year we put money aside to work on that. The water plant right now is maybe at about average of about 50% capacity, but we have a peak day that pushes us up to maybe 80% on that peak day. Now we're getting ready to build another storage tank, which helps us to serve those peak day without impacting the overall plant capacity. And the water plants are being master planned right now for expansion. So I think it's right behind the wastewater plant. In the next 2 or 3 years, we'll have to start a program to expand the water plant. So I think that infrastructure-wise, we know we're pushed on the wastewater plant capacity, but it's not domestic connections that are really our problem. It's an I&I problem. So in the wintertime, we see flows that are 2.5 million gallons per day, and they're down from quite a bit. 10 years ago, they were 4.5 million gallons a day. So we're making improvements on that. Our capacity in the wintertime is only 1.5 million gallons a day. Our capacity in the summertime is 450,000 gallons per day. So Sean will have us a new plant here in the next year, year and a half, and he will accommodate this high I&I flow, and Dawn will continue to fight I&I and correct that.
Okay, I want to make sure that we give other people an opportunity to ask questions, but before I come back to you, so. Okay. Give her the mic real quick.
Is set up to handle all the current housing developments coming in. And you said homes. Okay. What is taken, is there any consideration given into all these new apartment buildings come in? Because that's more than one home.
No, we consider each one of those as a living unit. So we treat it as residential units. So we have a load that comes from each residential unit. Yeah. No, it's not a home, it's a residential unit.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bill Highlands. Kurt talked about 1,000 units. I think, maybe 2,000 are possible. There's a $5,000 a unit park SDC fee, which means Parks and Rec may get $5 to $10 million in the next few years. State law restricts you for buying land only inside the city. But with a little creativity, you could buy some land just outside the city, require annexation before you actually purchase it or something. But I think you should be cognizant of the magnitude of Park SDC money that's coming, because it's a lot of money, and thinking about it beforehand strategically might get you a lot more bang for the buck than sort of being surprised when the checks start rolling in. So I just think you ought to realize what an opportunity you have, and For example, the core is for sale. I'd like to buy the northern half possibly, and the city could buy the southern half, and that would please me a lot. Because I just want a place to process rock, and if you want a lot of jobs, I'm going to try to expand the Estacada Rock Quarry, because I own the most adjacent land to it, and I hope to have more adjacent land and trade for some other land that I hope to buy. So thank you.
Thank you. What? Did we? I'm sorry, what?
Did you have any other suggestions specifically you would like to see this Park SDC's money used for?
That's what you're saying, purchase.
Specifically? Just land purchases?
No.
That's great feedback. Thank you.
One thing I would suggest, just thinking, because I know that Parks and Rec are going to be having their next meeting and they're talking about SDCs and specifically, I'll kick that idea over to them. But if you have the opportunity to email the Parks and Rec Commission with your ideas, I think that would be wonderful, because then they run the ideas up to us, to council. But I like what you have to say, and I appreciate your feedback very much. It's good. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. All right. And then I want to make sure that she had another question, so we've got, yeah.
I can hold it. Okay.
I think it's on.
Well, I'll sing karaoke then. I'm Richard Hartwig. I'm on the Planning Commission forever and was in your seats for 12 years. And I want to say thank you for your time, patience, and thick skin. The only people you see at a council meeting are usually angry. They never come in with roses and throw them at you and say thank you. But I'm up here tonight to say that I got slighted on a property that I own next to some apartments that were just built. I gave them my blessing, provided that they did a couple of alterations. And they said, yeah, we'll do that, to get my fourth vote for their going forward to the council. The following Monday, they come in and say, oh, by the way, we'd like to do 1.5 or 1 parking space. And you decided what you thought they were asking for was a great idea. we as planning commissioners get 800 pages from our engineering team. We got 2.5 days to sit down and read it. Unfortunately, it doesn't come with a audio that you can sit back and listen to it sitting in your chair. You're sitting in front of a computer, which I don't enjoy. I like this idea. We talked about that airport for hours. Paul was there, thank his heart and his good timing. And, you know, there's a few things that can't be hashed out in just one meeting, 2 meetings. And your master plan or transportation master plan seemed to be rammed down our throats. And it ran into a, what do I want to say, had a monkey wrench in some of the gears when it come to the adding that airport, which has been there forever, my whole lifetime and before. And the recommendations that the Planning Commission goes by to send to you, seems like we're not appreciated for our time or our thoughts, for quality of life, and the fact that nobody gives a hoot about trails, parks, or anything else, because I don't know how the 16 code got thrown out from what I grew up with 30 years ago when I got on the city council. Any 20-acre development, and it didn't have to be the same owner, it was just a development, had to give a half an acre for parks and or trails to the system. That is no longer the way it is. It has been written out, dropped out, rewritten, and it would just seem like we gave our book to the developers, hey, whatever we ask for, we're going to get. And so this is one of my complaints. I don't want to make you think that you're doing wrong. It's just that we need to stay focused on what the quality of life is around here for everybody, not just a few sacred builders that don't live here. Anyway, I'll stop with that. But thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. I agree with you. I know I feel very intimidated when I get a 900-page document come across, and I've got 3 or 4 days to look it over. There's stuff that's just going to get missed. And I know speaking for myself, and I know the rest of the council, we really do appreciate the Planning Commission. We appreciate all the commissions and committees that are in the city of Estacada. We're all volunteers. We're volunteers up here. No one gets paid. All the committees and commissioner, everybody's a volunteer. So people are they're taking their time, and we really do, and we do appreciate, we trust your input. I would say 90% of the time, council does, when something comes across from the Planning Commission, we do approve it. So we can either approve it with conditions, or deny it and kick it back to planning. But I would say the majority of the time we do. With the airport, I know there was some misunderstanding, some miscommunication as to the 50 acres and the 2 acres, and that got sussed out with the planning department and planning commission. Hopefully, this is what I heard through the grapevine. But I would agree with you. I think some more care definitely needs to be taken with those large documents so things are not getting missed. It's impossible. It would be impossible for me to see those things. I don't understand the nuances of certain things in development. Council McRoy has a better grip on that stuff than I do. So that's something that we can discuss with city staff, is if we've got something really big to look at, we need to have more than 3 or 4 days, and you guys do as well. So maybe if we can get, I don't know, just if we can have more time with that perhaps in the future, have 2 meetings to go over it, a workshop, something that, I thank you for bringing that to our attention, because I think that is needed for sure. Did you want to?
And as far as green space goes, I think the developers are getting the, getting the feeling that every one of us on the city council care about having green spaces in these new developments to the point where the last couple of developments, they've even come in with more land for green space than what we ask for. So, you know, I know this last one, this last development, it was quite a bit more than what we asked for as far as green space goes. So we all care about the green space in the new developments. We all want parks. We all want, you know, that area for activities, for just lounging if you want. So that is something that's very important and high on our list of priorities for the new developments.
I'll also say that the last time we had a disagreement was something regarding like Lake Shore, where the Planning Commission presented us and we voted actually against their recommendation. I know I personally spent an hour on the phone the next day with Chair Wheeler, and and then I found out after the fact that there was some other things that they were disgruntled with, and it wasn't something that we just ignored. I mean, I spoke to Chair Wheeler and I spoke to a couple other members on the commission in private to make sure that it was resolved. So I can assure you that if there is something that you feel like is unresolved or that we're not in the loop on, you can please email us. We do care. We will follow up on it. It is our prerogative to serve you guys as well.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, yeah.
All right, I'm going to make it quick. So, you know, they always say people want to annex, or you can develop in your property after you annex. But a lot of people don't want, everybody that I've talked to around my areas do not want to develop. They want to stay in that 5 acres, whether or not it's 10 acres with 42 homes. That's a lot of homes in 10 acres. So again, when it's presented in front of the, I guess you would say, city, or we listen to the initial report to the Planning Commission, they said that people want, you know, you can do whatever you want with your land. Well, with our land, we don't have the money. I've lived here since 1987, and I have 5 acres. And then we know the rule that if you're next, the criteria, if you're next to one, the next one goes, the next one can go. But again, you'd have to be a millionaire. You know, I'm ready to retire, and most everybody on Lawrence Road is also, and Woodland Road, and we don't have any, we want to stay by that creek. So there's no question there. I just want to also say Tina Kotex, hard time pronouncing her name, she is saying that she would, I'm thinking maybe that's why the mayor is not here. It was an OPB, and if I quote everything right, she's going to be now, she's got a law set up that needs to be voted on, that for towns of 25,000 people, they're going to start helping with our wastewater plant and our water container, but we're not at that point. That's not even where we're at. And so I know our wonderful mayor has asked our governor, hey, can we get some benefits for the city? We're building too fast. And you know, there's a development on Moss Hill Road coming up this summer. You know, the people need to know where these developments are going in. I mean, I don't know if a map would help showing it or not, you know, on your City of Estacada government site, but it kind of gives a stand on where everything's going to be and what's needed, and is this a good idea? You know, the last thing that was posted in the paper, I think it was July, and it said for towns of 10,000 people, you need to start developing. And this was in our local paper. Well, we're not 10,000 people, and people can say, well, it's right around the corner. But were we really mandated to put this many homes this quickly in, and without having all our infrastructure together? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know. I guess maybe I'll try and answer. I don't know if there was a specific question there, but I do know on the city website, as far as where development can go, there is a map that shows the urban growth boundary, and then it will also show how it's divided up into zoning. I don't know if there's anything on the map that shows maybe where future developments are going, perhaps? Is that?
I think there was a meeting that we had that had a packet that had them numbered, the approved subdivisions when we were looking at a new one, and I think it was numbered like 1 through 13. That might be a good map to repurpose and maybe just add anything that's happened since then.
We do have a map that shows all the subdivisions, and then there's like a second.
It's currently on the site already, website, or?
I'm not sure where it is on the site. I know it's on the site somewhere, and I can, put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so you get a heads up, yeah. Okay, are there any other questions? I'd like to, try to wrap it up here, so if there's one or two, we're happy to take those questions, but I want to be mindful of the school's time and what they've allowed us to use, so. Carrie, Mr. Dobbs.
I got 18 questions here. Thank you very much. 18. No,
We will do our
thanks.
best.
Anyway, 18 questions of people.
Oh, you got to be on the yellows.
Okay,
Sorry.
hi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. One question I have, first of all, appreciate you guys fighting, because if there is no resistance, we're going to get rolled over. You know it. It's coming from the state, right?
Yep.
Everybody sitting there has a vested interest to do right for the people. I know that. I know that. We have different flavors, but we're going to do what's right for what? The community, to retain our city. The steamroller's coming by the governor. She's pushing. She's made edicts for things to happen. This is what's coming to the people that live here, which is you guys. Now, the thing that, one of these questions right here is, I'm going to state the question. It has a statement to it. Citizens living outside the city limits are unable to chair on city council or vote in city elections. That's the way it is at this time. At this time. How many paid staff make decisions of Estacada's future that do not live within the city limits? In other words, they're not affected by it. People that are hired to do a job, but they're not affected by what happens in the town. There is no vested interest for people that are hired that don't live in the city. That's a ripple effect. And it's okay to go home at night after you make decisions for somebody else. What that does is it takes away your choice and your freedom. You guys fought for freedom. You know what freedom costs. We fight here now for freedom. And that's the voice of the people. You know why there's hardly a handful of people in here? Because people don't live on the screen. They live in reality. A lot of people live on the screen, and that's where they're fed, off the screen. How many people come in here and can't wait to get home and pop up city council and see what's going on today? Wow, man, what's happening today at city council in Estacada? I got it. Thank you. Anyway, that's the statement. So the fighters will bring forth the voice of the people. And there is resistance, and it's the voice of the people. It's got to come, or we're going to lose our town. This is the truth. You don't want to lose it. And those people out there don't want to lose it either. And I say that because what you guys fight for will make the difference. And it's got to come. It's got to come. Resistance. One other statement. There's been a statement made to us, and 3 times I have it on video. I love videos. My gosh, you can capture a lot of things. 3 times from the attorney, we could get sued. We could get sued. We could get sued. For what? Making a choice? The mayor stated, go ahead and sue me for the blue tents out in front of the firehouse. I'll refinance my house. Well, it could cost $50,000. He said, go ahead, hit me. I'll come with the $50,000. We had no blue tents out there. There has to be righteous resistance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else on, any comments online? Sure, come on up.
I don't know if this will be answered tonight or whether it can be at city council, but the Lakeshore Road is, from what I've seen on maps, well, Taylor Campy said that that's private property. That's not private property, that's actually a city road. If you look at the state maps, it shows Acacia and Lakeshore actually meeting up there. If you look at the county maps, it shows that Lakeshore ends where the beginning of the 12-unit apartments starts. So when was it sold and to who and for how much?
That I cannot answer. Would somebody on staff have that information? Nope.
No. We are planning, if there's any questions that are unable to be
Yes.
answered today, we will have a Q&A
That's why I said it
on
should
the,
be answered at council.
it'll
Yeah.
be on the
Not a problem,
website.
but
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's for things that require research,
It
yeah.
has been, it was said that that's private property. And when you look at the maps for the SK Lake Apartments,
Okay.
it shows that as part of it. It's not, that's a city street. And since it belongs to us, the city, then how much was it paid for? Who bought it? When was this all done? That needs to be clarified.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
We'll get that information to you. All right, okay. So I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I'll stand. Again, this was, I kind of feel like this is a rough draft for us. We haven't done this before, kind of like what Councilor Strobel was saying. So we're really just, especially me tonight, with the mayor not here, I'm just kind of shooting off the cuff. So thanks for giving me some grace, giving all of us some grace as we're trying to navigate town halls and what it looks like for the city of Estacada. I hope next time, maybe more people show up. So we left it more of an open format, so if people wanted to talk about wastewater or whatever, we try to leave it as open as possible. And as you can see, we did allow for plenty of time to dialogue, and hopefully we got some questions answered. If you do have other questions, please email them in, and then we will answer them. Either if we don't answer them, then somebody on city staff certainly can. And so I don't know, does anybody want to have anything else to say in closing?
Just want to thank everybody for coming out. It's just, if we would have had it at City Hall, 400 people would have showed up. So we came into a big auditorium, and then we had enough to fit in City Hall. That's usually how it goes. But I really appreciate everyone's time. It's nice to be able to dialogue back and forth and not have someone come up for public comment and then not be able to respond. It's nice to be able to have a back and forth, and I appreciate everyone that came up and had questions, and look forward to seeing you guys at future town halls. And if you can't make it to one of those, if you get a hold of me, I'll make myself available outside of those meetings as well. Happy to help with anything I can.
Yeah, just echoing Councilman McElroy. Thank you guys, and I appreciate the respectful conversation. I understand that some of this stuff is you're extremely passionate about. This is our community, this is our city, this is your livelihoods, and we don't take any of it for granted. I just want to say thank you for allowing us to serve you and to learn and grow with you guys. And I can promise you that all I want to do is continue to learn to do my best. And that's all I can do is try to get 1% better every day. I know that that's all I can do is try to get 1% better every day, just like you guys. And I know that there's a lot of things going on at once, but I promise you, if you have concerns, please come to us. We do care to hear. We may not always have an answer right there on the spot, but like I said, thank you for your comments tonight.
Ditto. I mean, very, very good words. Thank you guys. This was a first time this is my 6th year on council, and this is the first time doing something like this. This is a good experience, and hopefully we build on it, and hopefully the next one there's even more, and we can keep having these dialogues, having these conversations. Thank you guys.
ditto as well for me too. But also I see a lot of our commissioners out here and committee members, and we just appreciate you all for the volunteer work that you do as well too. It's great that you guys spend another night with us as well too, and with folks from the city. So thank you all for that, and thank you for the city staff for showing up, and those that work in their specialized areas. Thank you for that too. And I think with that, we can close.
Thanks again to our
School district for helping out too. Thanks, guys.